He's got a great defense. No, we got Joe Barry.
Happened to the bowl, bro.
Yeah.
A weekly pulse on all things green and gold with the three-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year, Jason Wilde. I'm ESPN Wisconsin's Alex Strobe. It's another edition of Weekly Wilde as the Packers at 2-0 prepare for the Cleveland Browns on Sunday in the Dog Pound or the Dog House. I guess I don't know what they call it in Cleveland. But the Packers good, the Browns not so much. We'll preview that matchup. We'll recap what the first 2 weeks of the season look like, which was really good for the 2-0 Green Bay Packers, and update you on all the injuries and all the in-betweens. Jason, how are you after a little mini bye weekend for you?
Alex, great. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm ready for the Packers' first road test. And, I think that's something I've seen more and more of as we get later into the week is, sure, the Packers' first 2 wins against the Lions and Commanders, respectively, were impressive, but those were both at home. Now we need to see how they do on the road for the next 2 weeks. I agree. It's something I'm interested to see, but also I think what we saw at home is just indicative of how good this Packers team is through 2 weeks. But nonetheless, first road test, does that bring any different vibes or things to see for you?
Sure. And look, I mean, it's easy to look at the records and say Packers good, the Browns not, right? But as we know in the NFL, it's 4 or 5, sometimes fewer plays that are the difference, right? There's like 120 some plays in a game, and it really comes down to 4 or 5 on each side, not even on each side of the ball, just 4 or 5 total. And so, for example, we spent an early portion of the week talking about Anthony Belton and what Myles Garrett is likely going to do, because we saw the game plan that Jeff Hafley rolled out against Josh Connerly, the rookie right tackle for the Washington Commanders. And that was, you don't have to go after Laramie Tunsil, who's a 5-time Pro Bowler. Go against the rook. And so in this instance, Rasheed Walker isn't Laramie Tunsil, and I'm guessing he's going to see Myles Garrett too, and they're going to move him around, so he's not easy to identify. But for a good portion of the game, they're probably going to target Anthony Belton if he ends up playing. Well, all it takes is one strip sack fumble returned for a touchdown, and it doesn't matter that 75-year-old Joe Flacco isn't able to be productive, right? So, their first game, I believe they lost to the Ravens 17-16, and the game on
the
Sunday,
Bengals 17-16, yeah.
Bengals 17-16. Who still had Joe Burrow at that time.
Correct.
So my point is that, and then they got blown out by the Ravens. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So, do I think the Packers are going to lose to the Browns? I do not. But this is what Matt LaFleur's fighting against too. Like right after the game, he said, it's a great win and this and that, but now I have some ammo for Monday when they return to practice, because they committed 10 penalties for 77 yards. Their special teams were borderline atrocious. So there's a lot that they need to be better at to even beat a team the quality of the Browns.
Yeah, at the end of the day, these are all NFL teams. While the Packers have looked dominant at points, there are still plenty of things they can improve at and improve on. But I would say, at least from afar, and I'm curious from your perspective, being in the locker room just about every day, it seems from afar that the temperature in the locker room is still, hey, man, we've proven nothing, right? We might be 2-0. It might be a good start. We might look really good on defense. But, hearing from Jordan Love and Xavier McKinney and Matt LaFleur, it seems like the message is pretty unanimous that there is still plenty to get better at. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, look, that they're also smart enough to know that that's what they're supposed to say.
True.
But I can tell you this, the vibe in there is, and I know we like to replay this on ESPN Beaver Dam, and so I won't swear just because it's on YouTube. But we're pretty effing good is the attitude in there. Like they're good, they're sexy, and they know it. I mean, they feel really good about how good they are. And so they do have areas to improve. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're as excited as they are, that they've been as dominant as they've been, and they have a 2-0 record, and yet they don't feel like they feel like they're just scratching the surface of how good they can be. But look, their defense is a problem. And as long as they stay healthy on that side of the football, it is going to be a problem. So that's going to, and when you have a defense like that, which, as you know, we are not accustomed to around here
No, we are
on a
not.
regular basis. Like there are certain teams that's their brand, right? Like I'm a little surprised. Like, I've been at least keeping tabs on Rodgers. I watched the first game. I did not watch their loss to the Seahawks, but their defense has been really bad. Pittsburgh's brand is always having a great defense. The Packers brand has never been, oh, we've always got a great defense. No, we got Joe Barry. So it's a new era because they are legit on defense. And Jeff Hafley is a legit defensive coordinator.
Yeah, you saw the improvement a year ago. They were a pretty darn good defense already a year ago, but you had a guy like Micah Parsons. This is something we've talked about, a million times over the last couple of weeks since acquiring Micah Parsons. But what this defense looks like now through 2 weeks is I mean, as good as any defense we've seen in the last decade and a half. You look at that Super Bowl team in 2010, but they were 6th seed, keep in mind. But they did have some game changers on defense, right? Clay, obviously, in the Super Bowl. It is time. Nick Collins, the pick six. B.J. Raji had big moments throughout that playoff run. Tramon Williams, who stepped up kind of out of nowhere in that playoff run, had a bunch of moments. So,
and you didn't even mention the guy that's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's a good point. Charles Woodson was pretty darn good, wasn't he?
So they were really good too. They won a game against the Jets like 9-0, I think, that year. Look,
I think you're right. Was that game on Halloween?
Spooky or fluky?
Oh, it's almost that time of year.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think you might be right. You were probably 2010, so that was 15 years ago. So you were like a 8th grader, early high schooler.
No, I was younger. I was probably 7th grade. I think it was like 11.
I was covering that game in person back then. But yeah, I mean, they were spooky, that defense. This one has a chance. Look, I'm not saying that they're that team yet, but they look like it because, as you just mentioned, that defense under Dom Capers had game changers at every level, right? And Clay Matthews as an outside linebacker, Cullen Jenkins and B.J. Raji up front. Although in the Super Bowl, a guy that most people have never heard of, Howard Green, was the one who made the big play. And then Woodson, Tramon Williams, and Nick Collins all on the back end. Like it's a lot of really good players. And this defense has Micah Parsons, who has now elevated Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness. Because again, I am a Quay Walker believer. So Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper's been phenomenal through 2 games.
So good.
And then, look, I know people kind of scoff at it, and I wrote about it this week about Keyshawn Nixon as CB1, but I don't see a whole lot of corners breaking up all 5 of the passes that get thrown his direction. And then obviously they've got McKinney. So, the scheme is really good. They've got really good players. They've got some unproven ones that are in the mix. Mm-hmm. And we'll see if they develop into really good players or at least competent players within that scheme.
Yeah, I think almost everybody owes Keyshawn Nixon an apology because back in January following the loss to the Eagles in the wild card round, when he appointed himself CB1, I think all of us went, huh? You sure about that? And through 2 weeks of this season, hard to argue with him at this point. So, I mean, I think a lot of us, me included, probably owe him an apology for doubting his ability because he's looked awesome.
Yeah, and look, he's going to be challenged, and there's going to be games where he's not going to look awesome, right? I mean, every corner has it, and I don't know who will be throwing the football to Justin Jefferson when the Packers and Vikings tango in their 2 games, but at this point, based on what they've seen from their quarterback and the frustration we've seen from him, Keyshawn Nixon's going to get a little help shutting down Justin Jefferson from the Vikings. So again, there's a long season ahead. They still got 15 more of these, but I can't imagine a scenario. I suppose if they would have put up even more points, like, we talked about earlier in the week, Love misses on the 2 deep balls to Golden.
Mm-hmm.
You're adding 130 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, and the rookie first-round pick is sitting there. And, yeah, he only got 2 targets, but one was a 33-yard touchdown and one was a 92-yard touchdown. Nobody's saying, boy, I really thought that he was going to have more of an impact right away. That's just the way the ball bounces or gets distributed, I think.
Well, he's actually somebody I had on my list because I think the route running ability, the speed, it's all evident. It just hasn't all been put together. And partially that's because Love missed him twice in that game against the Commanders on Thursday night, to your point. But he's a guy who I have actually gotten more excited about, despite him only having 2 catches, both of those coming in the opener. Because I'm by no means a film nerd, right? I'm by no means a scout, but from the little things I've seen, Jason, the talent is just completely evident for Matthew Golden, and that makes me wonder, well, what do they have for store in him, especially now with a guy we'll get to, Jaden Reed being out for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, obviously there's even more opportunity for him now, right? And he's going to take on some of those Jaden Reed responsibilities so he can help the Packers fulfill Packers to the bowl from Jaden Reed.
Packers to the bowl, bro.
Yeah. Man, oh man. I I really like him. He and I have a really good relationship. Is that his girlfriend in the back? Who decided that it was a good idea to take? It's fun, right?
Oh, it was a good idea. It was this guy wakes up from double surgery. Okay, we'll skip Golden. Maybe we'll get back to him. So Jaden Reed announces, per Jaden Reed on Twitter, I don't know if the anesthesia wore off at this point, but it was both a foot surgery for his Jones fracture and the collarbone surgery, which he broke against the Commanders. He then goes live on Instagram, and he's locked the hell in.
Packers to the bowl, bro.
Like, he's talking about how the Packers are going to win it all, and he's all drugged up. I mean, look, I imagine you've also, when I got put under when I got my wisdom teeth out when I was like 17. I was saying some crazy stuff. You never know what's going to come out of somebody's mouth. This guy's just locked the hell in on the Packers winning the Super Bowl. I love that.
Yeah, I've been under anesthesia a couple times. I did not want anybody putting my phone in my face. There's one of Taylor Swift after she underwent, like, maybe it was her wisdom teeth that she had pulled out, and she's like very emotional and she's like crying. Like, it's just, anyway, I'm glad that he said what he did and it turned into a fun thing.
Packers to the bowl, bro.
Yeah. Again, the most important thing there, by the way, from my reporter's standpoint, is that he confirmed what we were talking about. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't recommend breaking your collarbone so you can get your Jones fracture in your foot repaired. But if you're going to be sidelined anyway, you might as well do both. So, and we talked about this again. I appreciate Jaden because whenever I break a story, the last thing I want are people undercutting it. And, there were some folks that didn't seem to think that I had that right. I can assure you my sourcing was outstanding there. And he never, was dishonest. No, it's not that bad. Or no, that was blown out of proportion. No, he confirmed how bad it was. And I thought it was a terrible idea. And I told him that. Mm-hmm. That doesn't sound like something you should be playing with, quote, from me. And I'm not here to give him advice, but he was insistent that he could play through it. And if he doesn't break his collarbone, who knows what happens, right? Yeah. Like, he keeps playing on that and he cuts wrong and he does more. And look, feet and backs are always a concern for NFL players. So I'm glad that he was in his stupor able to fill us in that he had both surgeries.
Yeah, I guess it works out nicely. I guess if you want to put a positive spin on breaking your collarbone. Yeah, I guess the certain podcast hosts that were doubting your reporting, we'll let that one go ahead to the wayside as he confirms the foot surgery and also the collarbone surgery. So we'll see him. What is it? Typically about 3 months for that?
Yes, 2 to 3 months. I mean, again, I think Rodgers, it was 8 or 9 weeks. The first time. Now, again, I also don't know the severity of the collarbone fracture, right? Yeah. Like, Woodson had 2 of them. Rodgers had 2 of them, but they're all different, right? Like Rodgers, the first one was to his left collarbone, did not require surgery. It was not displaced. They could let it heal. His second one in Minnesota, when Anthony Barr body slammed him, was his right. It was broken in multiple places. They had to go in and surgically repair it. So I don't know what his timeline is. And the next time I see him in the locker room, and he's not under the influence of anesthesia, I will ask him.
To the bone, bro.
Just an amazing soundbite from Jaden Reed on Instagram Live.
I respect it.
You've never used a quote from a guy on anesthesia before, I would guess.
No, I was debating whether to use that last night and write something off of it or not. I did not for now. I figured I'd write something this morning. But yeah, Packers to the bowl, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a tattoo if they win it all. I'm just saying. Somebody's getting that tattooed. Picture of Jaden Reed's face from his hospital bed.
A good idea. I like it.
Anyway, so let's go back to Matthew Golden, because I also want to ask you about Tucker Kraft and his impact through 2 weeks. But it seems like Golden still getting his sea legs to a point. But again, I think from your view, which you have a great one in the press box, right? You kind of have the you can see the whole field. It pops off the page for him at points. Like there are routes that he's running, and the speed, obviously, so fast, ran the fastest 40-yard time of any wide receiver in this past draft. To me, it just goes, oh, okay, this is going to come together at some point, and it's going to be super impactful. We just haven't seen the production, if you will, through 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's also remember that he plays in an offense where last week Tucker Kraft got 7 targets, caught 6 balls for 124 yards and a touchdown at a big 57-yard play. Jaden Reed, before he's injured, I mean, the play didn't count because of a holding penalty on Belton, but he makes a fantastic catch on what would have been a 39-yard touchdown. Romeo Doubs is still contributing at time. I mean, last week, what did Wicks have? He had 3 or 4 catches in that game. Like the good news / bad news for him, meaning Golden, is that he went to a team that didn't have a number 1, but had a lot of really good like 2s and 3s who they do like to get the football to. I mean, Luke Musgrave got a couple of opportunities. Like there's a finite number of passes in that offense, and so you can run your route and win your route and still not get the ball.
Yeah.
Sounds like a limerick. But look, he is as advertised. So, our friend Matt Hamilton, gold medal curler, all around great guy on Jim, Matt, and Molly on ESPN Madison. Like he was a little frustrated the other day because he's not getting any production for his fantasy team from him. And I get it, right? I totally get it. Because two receptions for 16 yards or whatever he's got. Like, and look, he's not frustrated, not Matt Hamilton, Matthew Golden. He's not frustrated because he's worried about his fantasy stats, but he's a competitor. And he's not going to say to a reporter, I talked to him on Monday, he's not going to say, and he doesn't know my name at this point, so he's not going to say Jason. But he's not going to say, Jason, this sucks. There's a lot of expectations on me. Give me the damn ball. Like, he's not going to say that. He's a smart kid. And so, but as a competitor, and frankly, I always think that this gets a little bit misconstrued too. Like, I had this conversation with Devontae Adams once. Like, yes, there's ego. And yes, there's belief in yourself. But there's also the thing that, hey, you get me the ball, we're going to win more games because I'm really good, right? And so that's how these guys are wired. So, look, Matthew Golden is not going to be a problem for Matt LaFleur or anybody else other than Matt Hamilton. That's a lot of Matts in that sentence.
A lot of Matts. Yeah.
Wonder what Matt Patricia thinks of him. But my point is that, or Matt Damon. But my point is that he's going to get his eventually. And this is still a long-term thing with him, right? Like Romeo Doubs, in my opinion, is not going to be back. So there's going to be more opportunities there in a year. Christian Watson will be back, but he's a different type of player. Wicks and Reed will be in the last years of their contracts. So you never know how this is going to play out. But to your point, when you watch him, I keep using the word that he glides. He's just so effortless. Like, he's running really fast, and it doesn't look like he's trying to. And to me, that is a special characteristic. And eventually that is going to lead to productivity. And it could be on Sunday in Cleveland.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And that's what people say about me, too. I run fast, but it doesn't look like I'm trying to. So.
No, effortful. It looks you're straining. Matt LaFleur loves guys that strain. Hey, he was straining. He was working really hard. So, see, you're a LaFleur guy.
I love it. Yeah, I am. You're right. You're right about that. And also, you rattled off all the receivers that have had some sort of production through the first 2 weeks. How about the catch of the year so far for the Packers by Malik Heath? He had that 37-yard catch down the sideline after Jaden Reed got hurt. It's just like another guy that makes an unexpected catch.
I always love it when I ask a guy something and he doesn't see it coming and his eyes just light up at the question. And so I asked Malik Heath, I said, hey, I talked to him first about, filling the void that's created by Bird, which is what they call Jaden Reed, because he was a Jay Bird, just like me.
Just like you, yeah.
And I asked him those questions. And I said, hey, just out of curiosity, in the Hall of Fame of Malik Heath catches, where does that one rank? And he went into a whole long thing about this one-handed catch he had in college that he was really proud of. And that's still number one for him, he said. He had another one in high school that I'm like, all right. So he had it at third. And then we workshopped it a little bit because I said, Malik, I get it. Okay. But what about the footwork to get your feet down to make that? Like, they thought you were out of bounds. Like, your footwork was so good that they thought there's no way in God's green earth this guy was in bounds. And then the replay shows you were. He's like, that's a good point, because you only have to get 1 foot down in high school and college. He's like, all right, I'm going to move it up to number 2.
Nice.
So that's number 2.
So was that college catch made at Copiah, Lincoln, Mississippi State, or Ole Miss? Were you able to dig it up?
I believe it was at Ole Miss,
Okay.
or maybe it was for Mississippi State against Ole Miss. I got to look it up. I got to find the YouTube video.
Find the film for me.
I was working on some other stuff last night, so I didn't get to it.
Yeah, I don't know. You're a little busy. Whatever, dude. Last thing on the offense, and then we'll get to this Browns game on a quick preview. Tucker Kraft, you mentioned his stat line. We talked all offseason about the potential of this guy catapulting into the conversation of the top 5, top 4, top 3 best tight ends in the National Football League. Certainly looked like it on Thursday night. I imagine more to come for Tucker Kraft, because that seems to be, Romeo Doubs is certainly in this conversation too, but Kraft seems to be evolving into the quote unquote security blanket for Jordan Love, from my perspective.
Yeah, you may be right. And look, he is really good, right? I mean, I wrote a story on Channel 3000 just about all the guys' reaction to him, and Josh Jacobs, saying, I've been telling you guys, man. Like, he wanted to make sure everyone knew that he was on the Tucker Kraft train way earlier than some people are boarding. Keyshawn Nixon talked about him. Micah Parsons is mad that he didn't draft him on his fantasy team, which Micah Parsons may have an unhealthy commitment to fantasy football.
I was going to say, this is not the first time he's brought that up.
I didn't know this because I don't play, but I didn't realize that you could draft individual defensive players. You got to be hardcore to be playing that, right? That's like next level.
No, not necessarily. It just depends on the league you're in. So I'm in a couple leagues with it's called IDP, individual defensive player. I've got Zach Bond in one league from the Eagles. I've got Micah Parsons in one league, which, thank you, Micah. So yeah, that's not.
And again, normal. I asked if you have to be hardcore. You said, and I quote, I play in a couple leagues that way, and then that also implies that there are a couple leagues you play in that aren't structured that way. So how many leagues are you in?
Well, okay.
Ah,
I do believe
ah.
nobody gives a damn about my fantasy league, but I'll answer the question. I was in 8. I'm now in 7 because I was in a guillotine league, which means there's 18 teams. Bottom score every week gets cut. I was the week 1 cut in my guillotine league. I had a very bad week 1 in all my leagues, so I'm in 7.
Man, that seems violent, but okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is a strong word. I would agree.
so you were, if you hadn't been if you hadn't been beheaded by your fantasy football friends,
Yes.
you would be in 8 leagues currently. And you don't think that my statement about you have to be hardcore about fantasy football to be in a league where you have individual defensive players, you don't think that was an accurate statement. That's what you're telling me.
The Packers go to the Browns Sunday at noon. That game will be broadcasted on Fox. The Packers 7.5-point favorites. It'll be Joe Flacco at quarterback once again for the 0-2 Browns. You mentioned it. Any given Sunday certainly exists in
Sure.
the NFL, but this seems like a game where the Packers can get their road gear on comfortable and hopefully go get a comfortable win before heading to Dallas on Sunday Night Football the following week.
Yeah, I mean, look, like we were talking at the beginning, like there is there a path to victory for the Cleveland Browns at home? Of course, absolutely.
Sure.
But this is the important thing. If the Packers are who they think they are and who we think they are, you don't lose this game. Now, look, let's be honest. You're not going to win every game. They're not going 17-0. I want to reassure the 72 Dolphins that they can keep their champagne on ice until it's time to pop the corks. But, like, they could go to Dallas and lose, right? I mean, again, I think Micah Parsons will be so supremely motivated in that game that I think they're going to be going into the bye 4-0 where they stand now. Whether or not they get to 8-0 like Tom Waddle predicted during our Boldathon on Wilde and Tausch, often duplicated, never replicated. Boldathon, I don't know. But look, if you're the team that you believe you are now, and look, I think it's important to remember before they got Micah Parsons, there was still a lot of belief in that locker room. Like they felt like they were a good team. And now they just feel like they're a great team. And if that's who you think you are, and one of the criticisms that Matt LaFleur has had for his team is that they have not either kept their foot on the gas or their foot on the throats of opponents.
Yeah.
Like he was, if there was one thing he was ticked about from last Thursday night, it was the fact that it was 17-10 and they had dominated the game. Then that and he was legitimately, he had every right to be feeling that way.
And that was in the fourth quarter, Jason. Right. It was in the fourth quarter with 17.
Right. And so the defense didn't deliver the knockout punch. The offense, again, those 2 throws to Golden, you hit even one of those and you're not feeling that way. So I get it. But the fact of the matter is that they're really, really good, but they've got more to prove before we're putting them in Santa Clara in February.
Packers to the bowl, bro.
Speak for some of us.
I don't know. I don't know when we're going to see him again.
Might be a while.
No, I mean just in the locker room. I don't mean like on the field. It's going to definitely be a while in there or out there. But I do want to ask him, was that your idea? I'm fascinated by it.
And do you think he came up with the idea prior to the surgeries? He's like, when I get out and I'm all looped up, I want to go live.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
All's well that ends well.
Yep. Because
the other thing is, because we were joking about this. So, quick story, because Tausch is running late for us to start our show anyway. Sydney and Maddie were playing in a golf tournament yesterday, and Sid hits a ball into this marshy area. And she sees what she thinks is her ball. Turned out it wasn't. But she's got one of those telescoping ball retriever things. I'm sure Steve the Homer True carries one of these around because when he golfs, his biggest goal is to accumulate as many balls as possible. And then being the incredibly generous guy that he is, that he doesn't want anybody to know, he donates all those balls. So Sydney decides, I'm rescuing this ball. And the great irony that it wasn't her ball in the end was very funny. But she is on this downsloping side of this marshy thing. And her coach suggests you should probably record this in case she falls in. So I could send it to Alfonso Ribeiro at America's Funniest Home Videos. But here's the thing, like, I didn't go live, so if she fell in, whoever might be following would see it. I had editorial control over it. So, like, in his case, you could have videoed it and then posted it. Mm-hmm. But, like, you do it live, you never know what. Jordan Love, he never throws me the ball enough. Then we're having a different conversation.
Well, Jason, it was Jaden Reed that had surgery, not Romeo Dobbs.
Oh, good one.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here all week. All right, that does it for us on Weekly Wilde. Packers Browns at noon coming up on Sunday, Week 3 NFL action. Green Bay Game Day gets you started on ESPN Wisconsin, 620 WTMJ at 9 a.m. If you want more from Jason Wilde, the three-time Wisconsin sports writer, it's myself, Gabe Neitzel, Super Bowl champ Brian Bulaga, ESPN's John Anderson, and Jason Wilde. We go 5 wide for the first time this season at 10 o'clock Central on Sunday ahead of Packers Browns. You looking forward to that?
I'm just, I don't, we all are busy. Everyone's busy. So I'm no more busy than anyone else. But at the time of this taping, I had not even thought about what time the game was. So I'm glad you said that I'm on at 10 o'clock. So now I know.
That was the goal. That was the goal.
Thank you.
I'm glad you'll be there. All right.
Thank you for your service.
Find him on social, Jason J. Wilde. Find all of his musings at channel3000.com and the Jason Wilde's Extra Point newsletter, which you can sign up for free. I'm signed up. I don't just say this because I like Jason. It's very helpful. It gets prepped for all things green and gold. So I'm going to have the other Jaybird send us out. You mind?
Not at all.
Packers to the bowl, bro.